All right, we're going to get started. And when Jameen comes, we'll take a break. We'll pause and then she'll come in and speak to you and then we'll go right back to the content. Okay, so we're going to explore Module 2 right now. And as I mentioned, we're going to... Ready? Okay. We're going to cover a few fundamentals. We know you all deal with risk every day and you're risk managers. Everyone is a risk manager. We're going to talk about our definition as it applies to ERM. We're going to talk about risk identification, the impact of controls, how we prioritize risks, and how we determine risk responses, and then a little bit about monitoring. But I have a question for you all. How do you define risk? What does risk mean to you?
Anything that may impede your everyday living or work habits or, yeah.
So it's an impedance, not just in your professional life, but in your personal life. It's everywhere. Yes.
Uncertainty?
Uncertainty. Uncertainty.
Yeah, I guess it would be the same thing, the possibility of outcomes.
Uncertain outcomes, just, it's kind of the unknowing. Great, thank you. Here's our official definition of risk, and there are lots of ways to look at it. Risk for us is the possibility of an event, just like you all talked about. You said the same thing in a different way. An event occurring that will have an effect on the achievement of objectives. An event could be an incident, a one-time event, or an occurrence. It could be over time. Something happening that is either internal to an organization or external to an organization. That will have an effect, which is a deviation from the expected. It's just a deviation from the expected on the achievement of objectives. Now, when you look at this definition, one thing that it might come across to you, it's kind of a neutral definition, right? It's not saying it's a good or bad thing, it's just uncertainty. Can anybody give me an idea of an event that has happened to PIH that has been external, that has been unexpected, that might have affected the achievement of objectives? Yes. Hurricane Katrina, how did that impact the achievement of objectives within PIH?
Well, you had to move a lot of people out of public housing in New Orleans to different places.
So it was moving a lot of people out of public housing all across the country and looking for housing elsewhere. It was a huge, huge effort. Anything else? Great example. Yes.
Well, in the IT world, we try to be structured as we can by scheduling things because we have a critical path of start to finish. Finish is the product, which is the system or the enhancement of the system. So where risk falls in for us would be like, if I have this schedule, then on this date I've got to deploy, I need to go. I have all these dependents that can get me there. My constant battling with risk is something going wrong with the dependents, whether it's something from the CIO, something from procurement, something from admin, something from the users, all of the dependents that I need to make that outcome, the deployment of that system somewhere, I run into risk. Because a lot of them are things that I can't adjust and I cannot control, therefore they're going to impact on my end game.
That's a great example because there are only so many things you can control, but the uncertainty can increase the more things that you have that you're dependent on that are external to your control. Excellent example. Risk can be looked at a couple different ways. There can be an upside to risk. And we define that as when the advantage of taking a risk supersedes the advantage of not taking it. And we all take risks, and you have to take risks. The downside, of course, are negative events. It could be an impact to schedule. It could be having to quickly find housing for people who have lost housing in one of these major storms. How do we reduce risk down to zero? That's a good way to kind of lower it a little bit. But is it possible to reduce risk to zero? It really isn't. You know, the way you do that is do nothing, and we know there are other risks to that as well. So, does anybody remember Wayne Gretzky, the famous ice hockey star? Yes? I love this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And risk entails taking those shots. The great thing about risk management, and we'll show you with enterprise risk management, it helps us determine which of those shots to take and which not to. It helps us look forward and be proactive about that. So the way we talk about risk, the way we deal with it, we have to be comfortable. As Wendell said earlier, we have to be comfortable talking about risk, sharing risks, having that two-way conversation. It isn't a bad thing to have risks. And it's not a bad thing to identify them and talk about them. It isn't a sign that things aren't going well. It could be a sign that a lot of progress is being made. And all of you are risk managers. I know that you manage them every day very well. So Nicole is going to talk about this.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicole Puri. I'm the Deputy Chief Risk Officer for PIH. All right, so what you're seeing up on the screen is what we have traditionally done for risk management in PIH. And you'll see our 4 silos here. These are examples of risk management efforts and tools that currently exist in PIH. So you probably recognize some of them. We have the National Risk Assessment Tool, which is what the Office of Field Operations uses. We have HCV shortfall, QAD, which is a function in the OPHVP office, and ONAP also has its own risk assessment. Now, these are not meant to be all-inclusive. They're just examples. There are other tools that exist in PIH. But what we want to show here is what's missing with this existing traditional approach. And that is 2 things. One, we don't look at cross-cutting risks. So what are those risks that are occurring across all the silos, across all the different groups and programs and support offices? And what are the risks in the white spaces in between, right? We may be missing things by only looking at it from a siloed approach. So this is the 4 categories of risk that PIH is currently looking at. So this is how we are going to categorize risk for our purposes in the enterprise risk management effort. And we've got essentially the top 2 boxes and the bottom 2 boxes. They're kind of 2 separate arenas. So in the top 2, we're looking at entity and properties, and that means housing authority entities, could be Indian housing authorities, could be public housing authorities. And then you've got properties, which is obvious, the units, the individual developments and properties. And those are going to continue to be managed as they have been. So the tools that are out there managing risk, being used to manage risk currently, are going to continue to be used. So the National Risk Assessment Tool, the ONAP risk monitoring tools, those are still going to be used. On the bottom is where we're going to focus our efforts for enterprise risk management. So the PIH programs, which also includes the support offices in PIH, and PIH enterprise or strategic level risks, that is where our focus is going to be to try to elevate this to the next level. So you've seen this slide before. This is the risk cycle, and we're now going to get into the individual steps in the cycle in more detail. So the first step is to identify risk. So how do we do that? Wendell mentioned earlier that we have a number of tools that we use. We're going to talk through the annual risk assessment today and what that looks like and what it means. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bailey. I work in the risk division. So every single time we move around that pretty little cycle that you saw, you'll see my face. So that's how we can start to benchmark where we're at. The first thing that we're going to start on today is that risk identification piece that Nicole was talking to you about. So this is going to be a very quick activity. Y'all should have a little index card in front of you. If anybody's watching the webcast, I'm sure you have scratch paper. Go ahead and take a couple of seconds and think about something that impedes your ability to do your job, that it obstructs the processes that you have to go through every day. We use a lot of, kind of way outlandish examples. I like to joke that if my coworker snores too loud, I can't focus on my work. So things that are going to get in your way, you can't log into your computer, or there's some policy that holds you back, or something that's happening. Take a couple seconds and jot that down. We'll give you a minute. I'm going to have you hold on to this. Don't put your name on it. We want you to stay anonymous. I'm going to have you all hold on to this, and we're going to work with these risks throughout the day. This is just the beginning of working through that pretty cycle that Nicole and later on Judy and Wendell are going to explain to you. Okay, I'll let you all keep working, and Nicole's going to take a couple more, or Nicole or Judy are going to take a couple more minutes and talk to you about some of these other pieces, and then we're going to come back and work with these risks in a few minutes.
Go ahead and take a minute to finish up. Okay. Oops. All right, so what is a risk statement? Well, a risk statement is a clear and descriptive, it's a written statement, that provides a clear and descriptive information that's required for a reasonable and defensible assessment of the risk's probability and potential impact. And we're going to explain why the probability and impact are important a little bit later. Typically written as an if-then statement. So if something, then something. And how do you write a risk statement? It contains two components to be well written. It has to have a statement of the condition present, which means what's going on currently that could cause the risk, and the associated risk event or events, so the then part of the statement. So if this happens, if this condition occurs, then this impact or this event will occur or will impact us. All right, so let's go through a couple of examples to make it a little clearer. So if personally identifiable information, PII, maintained by REAC is inadvertently released to unauthorized sources, then the department could suffer material reputational harm. So you see the if as the condition. If the PII is released, then the event is we could suffer material reputational harm. That's the impact piece. Another example. If REAC is unable to modernize and enhance PIC VMS and EIV to accommodate programmatic and regulatory changes during the phase-in of a replacement system, then PIH's ability to track inventory, monitor PHAs, and produce accurate funding calculations will be compromised. So this has multiple impacts or multiple events occurring. Okay, so now Bailey's going to take over.
So now that Nicole's kind of explained this risk statement piece, we're going to take a couple of seconds and write our own risk statement using that idea of event and consequence. When we as the risk division do this, this is it is a long process. It takes a lot of work and rework and redefining and explaining each side of those components, both the if and the then, that condition and that consequence. For the sake of our exercise, we don't expect you to write a book. That would just take way too long for all of us. But the idea is to take a little bit of time and think through that risk that you wrote down. And how does that become an if-then statement? If what happens, then what? What's the consequence of it? Is there anyone, you don't have to, is there anyone who's willing to share an example that we can work through together before we work through them individually? Great, let's hear it.
If the Oracle data server goes down, then we can't access information on the public housing authorities, and we really can't monitor to make sure things are going correctly.
Great, that's a phenomenal example. So the example is if the Oracle data system goes down, then we can't access information on our public housing authorities, which means we can't monitor our PHAs properly. There's probably a lot of other cascading effects. Then we can't calculate our ops subs very well. We can't provide TA to our PHAs. It goes on and on and on. That's a phenomenal example. If we were to use this in the formal process, we would spend a lot of time really thinking through, what does it mean if the Oracle data center goes down? Goes down? How does that define? For the sake of this argument, that's a perfectly great example. If this system goes down, then we can't do our work. So I'm going to have you take a couple of seconds and think through that risk that you have. What is the event that you are hoping doesn't happen? And what is the consequence if it does? If I ride my bike to work every day, then I may get hit by a car and crush my skull. That is a possible example. That's the risk that I'm worried about. It doesn't really affect my work other than the fact that I don't get here, but it's an example. So how can you use that? So we'll give you about a minute or so to write down that if-then statement. Are there any questions about that process? Okay, as you finish up, kind of slip them to the edge of the table and we'll come around and pick those up. We're going to use them later on throughout the day in different exercises. We aren't going to call out any names or anything, but we'll have them up displayed so that we can use them when we go through the rest of the process as we cycle through that circle.
Thank you, everybody, for giving that some thought and writing your risk statement, and we're going to use that in our exercise. And we talked a lot, we're talking definitions here, and one of the critical definitions to understand enterprise risk management is this concept of inherent risk. There are lots of ways this can be defined, and it's far more complex than we're making it today. But inherent risk is the risk to an entity as a result of an incident or event that occurs in the absence of controls and our management response. I think a simple version, and there are lots of different ways to look at it, might be, say you buy a house and you haven't put in smoke alarms, and maybe you don't have a burglar alarm, and most importantly, you haven't even bought insurance for it. That's a house that's sitting there with a lot of inherent risk. You haven't put any controls into managing the risks that any new purchase like that would have. So inherent risk is really nothing has been done yet. And it's a very important concept to understand because ERM depends on a good understanding of the next step. And Nicole's going to take you through this slide.
Okay. So risk and internal control, how are they related? What do they mean? What's the difference? So inherent risk, as it says, is an event that occurs in the absence of controls. So in the house example, you purchase a house and there's a fire. Well, You know, that's that's a risk that you have a fire and that there's no control because you don't have insurance on it. Or, you know, you don't have a burglar alarm on it. Control activities are policies and procedures that ensure management's risk response is carried out. So things that you always do to try to keep that risk lowered or under control in some way. An example of something like that, you know, policy and procedures, standard operating procedures. That's a pretty standard, pretty good example. And then the residual risk is the risk that remains after your controls are put into place. So even though you have controls, there's some risk that's going to be left over. We can't always get rid of all the risk, right? We can't reduce risk to zero. So we know there's some left over, and that's what the residual risk is. And that's, just to reiterate, that's the main difference between inherent and residual risk. When we talk about this later, it's the controls. That's the difference. Okay, a couple of examples. So our inherent risk, and I believe this is an example from PASS, staffing levels. Okay, we all know staffing issues, right? So staffing levels are inadequate to perform administrative tasks and inspections in a timely manner. So that's just an inherent risk to doing business in this area. The control we have is that we borrow staff to try to meet some of that demand. We share inspectors if we can. Okay, so those are some controls that we put in place. Anytime we're short-staffed, we do those things. And the residual risk that's still left over is we still can't perform tasks on a timely basis, and physical inspections still may not be performed, which results in the physical condition of the housing deteriorating over time. Yeah.
Would you consider residual risk in our world being lack of funding?
I think, well, it depends on how you define it, but possibly, yeah.
If we cannot finish a project because management or whoever decides to pull the funding,
Right, something that's out of our control, that sort of thing.
therefore the risk stays until we can.
Sure. Sometimes that could be that the inherent and the residual risk are the same because we don't necessarily have a controller. The control isn't something within our control. So if we can't control how much funding there is, then it's just an inherent risk that we have to accept. So, but we'll talk more about that. I think that that's a possible example, but I think as we get into this, it'll be a little clearer. Okay. Example 2, inability to hire analysts. So another staffing example. Inability to hire analysts as needed could result in decreased client service due to increased workload for existing analysts. So too much workload, not enough people, we have to give them all more work. Our control is we do staffing and workload evaluation. So we try to monitor to see, you know, who's got what and try to redistribute the workload more evenly. But even if we do that, there's still a possibility that client service will decrease because we still can't get to everybody if we have too few staff. So simple examples. Okay, so now we've identified risk. We've been through the top blue step, and now we're on quantifying risk. And to quantify risk, we have to identify impact and probability. Okay? So how do we quantify risk? Well, we have to understand the internal controls. We talked about what the controls are. Why is it important to understand the controls? Because we're looking at residual risk. That's how we're going to actually quantify. We're only going to quantify residual risk, not inherent risk. So we have to understand what the controls are. We have to estimate probability, and we have to determine impact. And now Judy's going to tell us about probability.
So as Nicole said, there are really two measures we look at to kind of quantify risks. And the first is probability. Probability is assessed on a risk after the controls have been implemented. And there are about 30 different definitions of probability, and we picked one of the clearest and the simplest, and that is likelihood of occurrence. On a scale of, we use a scale of 1 to 5. The higher the number, the greater the likelihood of occurrence. If we hit, say we have a probability of 5, what does that mean?
Probably gonna happen eventually.
It's turned probably from a risk to an issue, and we consider it's happened. If we're below 1, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, there are reasons that we always assign probability and impact separately. When we contextualize risk at the ERM level, sometimes these numbers change. Probability sometimes stays the same, But risks are transformed over time, so we go back and visit these assessments as we're monitoring risks. An example could be the shortfall prevention team work for PHAs. Given all the work they do, what is the likelihood that a PHA will terminate families due to a shortfall? A public housing authority.
But it depends on the PHA
Well,
size, and funding. There's a lot of variables in that to answer that question.
what are some of those variables?
Well, it depends on the type of preventative maintenance program that they
Mhm.
have.
Mm-hmm.
You got at residents, how they, to the degree of which they age a unit.
Right.
Funding. That
Funding.
the Housing Authority would have to keep a preventative program going and to do repairs. I mean, there's a lot of variables, management variables, and financial variables in there.
Sure.
To make that scale of 1 to 5 on probability.
How often has that happened over the past couple years? Can anybody answer that? Probably not very likely. Would you consider it low likelihood? We've,
You know, maybe if you put it this way, if I have a housing authority and my physical inspection score out of, is it still 30 or 40 points? What's physical inspection is based on?
It's 40.
It's 40, okay.
Mhm.
Let's say I do this one housing authority, has no preventative maintenance program. And their public housing physical inspection score is a 10.
yeah,
They start a maintenance program, and then within the next 2 years, their physical inspection score is now 25. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's the example. I look at probability with no preventative maintenance.
right,
That there is an issue would be 5. Now
Right.
they have this preventative maintenance, and I look at it that way of analyzing the data.
Right.
That REAP will produce, to say now for that particular PHA probability is a 2.
right.
Because they've done these things.
And that is somewhat at the PHA level. PIH as an entity has a shortfall prevention team work, which hopefully will make the likelihood of that very, very, very low. And that's why we assign it differently, because even though the likelihood is very low that it will happen, as you stated, there is a possibility. You could have a PHA that's not cooperating. You could have a budget shortfall. The great work that the shortfall prevention team work is doing, they may get stretched thin. So you keep it on the risk matrix, which brings us to impact.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
The example that you gave
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning before she said what she said, in my opinion, from what I heard, there wasn't enough information given to make a sound judgment on the probability to answer your question. So that's why I heard dead silence until she said something.
Okay.
So if you want me to make an informed decision
Right.
or judgment on something, I need more information than what you gave.
And that would be a good opportunity to do a risk statement for it. I'm kind of looking at high level at probability of something happening that is probably lower than expected. The shortfall prevention team work is a control that is put into place to reduce the likelihood of a PHA having to move people out due to a shortfall. That is a very strong control that has reduced the likelihood to a very low level. And that is, even though it is possible, it's low. With that said, the impact of that happening, should it occur, if it were to occur, this is that risk statement, could be, what kind of impact would that be on the organization?
It depends. I mean, there's a risk of, again, Washington Post saying.
Yeah.
Atlanta Housing Authority turns out 100,000 people were stuck.
So it could be reputational. And, the mission of HUD could be impacted. That's kind of in conflict with the mission. So risk impacts can be positive or negative. In this case, it would be negative. We assign those on a scale to 1 to 5, much like probability, and we look at some of these things that you mentioned. We look at financial, reputational, regulatory, health, security, mission. It affects every part of the way we operate, and we do separate them. They're always separated, impact and probability. And we know that if this were to happen, so the impact, if this were to occur, would be higher than the probability.
Okay, so we're going to talk through an example from the Technical Assistance Center risk assessment that was done in fiscal year 15 this past year. Is everybody familiar with the TAC and what they do? Yes, no? Okay. Okay, and for those who aren't, and for those who may be watching who aren't familiar, the Technical Assistance Center is like a call center operation. They answer questions from physical inspectors and housing authorities calling in who have questions about systems, I believe. So, fortunately, I can't read this from here either, but so we're looking at the second line, which is in white, and in essence, this risk states that the TAC uses a system which is called CASS, I think, CASS, and that system is, in essence, pretty old and at risk of breaking down. So, you know, they continue to try to maintain it and they use it, but it's, you know, has some potential serious problems. So the control that they have in place is they maintain a manual backup system, okay, or they maintain a backup. But the residual risk remains that, you know, the system could still break down, and this CASS system, which is a task management system, task management inquiry system, I believe, would be not operational, and they would have to go to a completely manual system. So like nothing computerized at all. Obviously pretty significant. So they rated the probability, and they rated the impact during the risk assessment, and they rated the probability of 4, so pretty high, right? That's pretty high that the system's gonna break down and they'd have to go to a manual system. And they rated the impact of 5. Obviously that's a big number as well. So that came to a score of 20. So you can see out of a scale of, 1 to 5 for both probability and impact, the max you could get would be a 25. So a 20 is pretty high up there.
Now that we've covered the kinds of risks that we want to address and assessed the probability and impact, we have to determine how we're going to manage them. But before we get there, we have to determine what our risk tolerance is. And that is something we call risk appetite. Risk appetite varies greatly among individuals. It varies in organizations and across organizations. And sometimes it's not explicitly stated, it just is. And the way you can determine it is looking at the actions taken and not taken, and over time, the risks taken and not taken. And you can tell a lot from that what an organization's risk appetite is. And it is very important in terms of risk management, and particularly enterprise risk management, because it helps guide strategy setting.
Okay, we're actually going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break, so if you can come back in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started. So, as I mentioned before, as we move around that risk cycle that you all saw, you'll see my face each time we go to a new box. So right now we're on the quantification piece, and Nicole and Judy talked to you a little bit about that idea of probability and impact and why we separate the two, that we score probability separate than impact. What we did is we took all the risks that you all gave us and typed them up into this pretty little Excel sheet that you can see. And we're going to take a couple of minutes and score these. But as I heard a couple of folks mention, there are a few things. First, when you score, there's a lot of information you need, right? You know, what exactly is going on, how are things working. So we want to think through all the details. What exactly are we scoring? But also we think about what is the perspective from what chair are we looking at? So as I mentioned, we're at that quantification piece, and we're going to talk about probability and impact. And so we want to think about it from what perspective are we looking at? If you are the president of the United States, how you score that probability and impact is going to drastically differ from then if you are at your own desk and this is something you're thinking about. So for the sake of right now, for the sake of this exercise, we are going to pretend we are one happy basement family. Our job is to work in the basement, and that's what we do, and these are the things that we do, and these are the risks that we, the basement family, have. And that's just how the perspective that we're looking at. We're looking at this risk from our desk, from the world that we deal with every day. And as somebody mentioned, there's a lot of information that if we were going to score this that we would need to know. We'd spend some time researching it and thinking about it, and how big of an impact does this have on my day-to-day. But for today, we're going to continue along. So with that, we're going to look at this first risk. If my computer is not working, then I cannot access my work documents, email, or communicate with a wide range of coworkers inside or outside of my location. So that's a risk. Let's think about the probability. What is the probability of that happening? Yeah, so some of y'all jumped way ahead. I forgot to explain. We're looking at it on a scale of 1 to 5. Why do we look at a scale of 1 to 5? Because we want to. It's some of the best practice stuff that we looked at when we looked at COSO, but really that number, we could call it 1 to 18 billion.23, but that would obviously get a little bit hard to handle. Or it could be 1 to 2. 1 to 5 is a good number for us to mentally deal with, to kind of be able to put things on one side or the other. And so that's a scale that we're using. And 1 being almost never, almost completely improbable. 1 is like, the chance that the president will read this list right now. Or the chance that I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow. 5 is most definitely. It is almost definitely going to happen. This is very, very likely, as Nicole and Judy started to explain. So I heard a couple numbers. If my computer is not working, then I cannot access my work documents, and I cannot do my job. When we score these probabilities and impacts, we're looking at the probability of both components. So not just that the computer doesn't work or that you can't do your job, but that your computer doesn't work and therefore you can't do your job, that they're both together. So let's hear some numbers. 1 to 5.
I'm confused. Hold on. It says if my computer's not working, I cannot access my work documents, blah, blah, blah. You interpret that as if they cannot do their work. I don't interpret that.
Well, and that's a great point. So the comment was that, does that mean they can't do their work? And that was something that we would spend especially when we're thinking about the impact. If we were going to do this as a risk assessment for the actual process, we'd probably spend a lot more time really clarifying what work needs to be done, exactly what work can't be done. And so that's a whole nother step. Those of you who've been through the risk assessment process know that to form these risk statements and to actually go through the quantification takes quite a while because of questions like that. What work can't you do? Well, you can't check your email, but you can probably review the contract that's printed out on your desk. And that would be the type of thing that we would clarify. But that also factors into our impact statement and some of those controls. Maybe you have a job, maybe we in the basement, because we are basement people, our job doesn't require the computer. Our control is whenever we get an email, we print it out automatically. So this wouldn't affect us at all, right? We'd have pretty much all the emails printed out and we could figure out what to do with things. In this case, we're going to just kind of take it at face value for the sake of argument, because if we were going to really hammer out the details on each side, it would take us many hours. And guess about a probability. How often does your computer not work and that affect your ability to do your job? Lately? Yeah, let's go with that. A lot more often lately. That's fair. Okay, that's so that's a way to quantify it. I heard last Thursday. So if we're looking at, does it happen at least once a quarter? At least once a quarter. We've got 30-something people in here, and it happened to one person at least once a quarter. Anybody else does it happen to at least once a quarter their computer doesn't work? Has anybody's computer never not worked? I have a brand new one. Mine has actually been okay. So a couple of us. So it goes on all of the scales. So we know it's happening for sure. It's more than a 1. We know it isn't every day. What number could we give it? A 1, a 2? 2. For the sake of brevity, we're going to do a quick hand exercise. Who says 1? 2? 3? 4? All right, we're going to go with a 2. So, Paul, we're going to give that probability a 2. We're going for real scientific methods right here in this example. So then what is the impact of that? Of your computer not working and you not being able to do your job?
Low.
I heard a low. Great. Why would you say it's a low?
Well, realistically, depending on the outside factors, this is something that doesn't occur frequently, so therefore the impact is low.
Yeah, so we would break that out. It doesn't occur all that frequently, which makes the probability low, but that also in a way affects our impact in that there are probably jobs and things that you can do without that computer because the impact is, or because it doesn't happen that often, you're prepared for it. So it's probably not the highest impact of all things. Unless you're in a paperless environment, which we're moving further and further towards. Great.
I'd say 4 because of my job, if the computer goes down, I can't get in and do a data analysis, I can do some other stuff without very much looking on that.
Yeah, so 4 because in your job, and here in the basement world, we're going to say we all use our computers a lot. So if we can't use our computer, that's going to have a big problem, right? So let's do a quick hand exercise again for brevity's sake. Who says 1? 2? 3? 4? 5. All right, the 4s in my great counting abilities. We're going to give that one a 4. And with that, we're going to take just a brief pause and introduce our risk committee chairwoman. So if our risk committee chairwoman could please join us. Do one more? Great, we're gonna let Jameen vote on these. So the next one, if the Oracle system goes down, then we cannot access PHA information and will not be able to provide TA, calculate subsidies, etc. So this is a great one. We're going to think about the probability, and this is one that if we had more time, we could probably pretty easily figure out the probability, right? Like there's a log that tells us how often this happens. I don't look at that log and know, so we're going to guesstimate. What is the probability? How often are we thinking that this Oracle system could go down? And then when it does, that it then affects our ability to calculate operating subsidy and provide TA to our PHAs? Lately it's been a 4. So I roughly more or less how often does that happen?
Lately it's been frequently.
Frequently? 2 or 3 times a week? That's pretty frequent. Are there any strong dissenting opinions that it's not a 4? All right, let's go with 4. So it's happening all the time. What is the impact when our Oracle system goes down? 5? You said we can't do what we say we can do?
Because you're not able to provide TA, so how can you provide TA without the Oracle?
Yeah.
Why can you not provide TA?
You're not able to provide TA, that's what it says.
Yeah, so that's a great point.
I mean, I thought we were going by the state.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a really great point. We'll go by the statements because as you mentioned, because we're all coming from a very wide range of offices with differing ability or differing jobs, some folks are probably a lot less familiar with this because it's not part of your job. And why would you have enough to learn in your own world. You don't need to learn everybody else's world as well, which makes sense. So we're going to operate under the assumption that in our job, we need this Oracle system in order to do our work. For some of us, that may be true. For those of us who are intimately involved in, calculating the operating subsidy or pumping out scores or a lot of that, for a lot of us, it is very important, certainly for the REAC and a lot of the Office of Field Operations. For other folks, it's probably less important. The procurement folks, the budget folks, they really don't depend on the system that often as much, but it matters to them still. So it all depends on our perspective. Here in basement world, because remember, we're looking at it from the perspective that all of us do the same job, because we do, right? And we live here in basement world, and our job requires this system. What would be the impact when it goes down? A 5? If we need that system? All right, so we can go with a 5. Great. So we've taken a little bit of time to delve into this probability and impact piece. We're going to come back to this because really, as I mentioned, so much of this depends on from what perspective you're looking at, you know, what type of priorities you have, that risk appetite that Judy talked about. We have to think about how much can we actually focus on. And we're going to come back in a little bit and reevaluate these statements. Because again, as I mentioned, we're looking at these statements as a happy family down here. But we are 35 of the 17 or 1,500 PIH employees. So our world here is only a small portion of the 1,500 person PIH world enterprise that we're dealing with. So later on, we're going to come back to this and talk about how we can scope this up or down. That said, here in basement world, this matters. These things matter. Even if, you know, we later on decide that the President of the United States doesn't need to come down and deal with the fact that my computer doesn't turn on, it matters to me. I still have to deal with that risk. I still have to make sure that I, you know, take care of my computer. I don't dump coffee on it or dump water or whatever else. I still have to deal with that risk. President Obama probably doesn't. Although if he wants to fix my computer, I'm welcome. I am open to him coming and hanging out with me anytime he wants. That's cool. I will take a presidential visit just to fix my computer. But that's that perspective piece that we'll come back to later on and talk about how we can get a better grip on what do we do as a PIH enterprise, not just as our little basement world.
Okay. So now we've scored a couple of risks. Okay, so we have some sense of what the numbers mean. We want to look at, well, now how do we use that information, right? So there's a couple different ways to look at it. One is to use this risk analysis matrix, or as you'll often hear called a heat map. And the reason it's called a heat map is because the colors get hotter as you move to the right. So as the risks get riskier, the colors get warmer and hotter. So the idea here is you would plot your probability and your impact score. So if your probability was a 5 and your impact was a 4, you'd be somewhere in the red box, right? Major risk. And that makes sense because a 20 out of 25 should indicate a pretty high risk. So you would plot all your risks on this map, and then you would draw a line, which is represented by this dotted line, to show where you're going to try to address some of these risks. Because everybody has limited resources. We can't deal with everything every single time, 100%. So we have to make some decisions about what's the priority, what are we going to start with at least, and that's what the line is for. Now that doesn't mean that we don't ever deal with minor risks or we ignore them. It just means that we probably spend somewhat fewer resources on them, or they're not the top priority the first time around. So let's talk again about prioritization of risks. So what does that mean? So the prioritization, it's based on the total risk score, which is the probability times impact. We just demonstrated what that looks like. It's the basis for determining how risks should be managed. So again, in thinking about that heat map, you're looking at things that are in that upper right major risk quadrant primarily. And then you kind of can move back down towards the green as you have resources available. Risks are sorted by risk score. So again, another way of looking at it, we take that risk register and we sort by 25 all the way down to 1, and then approach the risks in that manner. And responses are based on the organization's risk appetite. So what does that mean? Well, in our case, it means the risk committee or your individual entity, your organization that you work for, would look at your risks and would say, well, how much of this risk are we willing to accept? If we have 5 risks that are above a 16 in score, we can't accept anything above a 16. So anything above a 16 we have to do something about. So that's how we determine it. For every organization, it's a little bit different as to where they draw that line. Okay, so back to our risk cycle. So we've now identified the risk. We've also talked about quantifying the risk, and we know what that means. So the next step is to select a response to the risk. So before we move any further forward, we have to figure out what we're going to do about it, if anything. So when it comes to risk responses, there's basically 3 options that we use. We can either accept, we can mitigate, or we can transfer. So what do these things mean? Because again, when we talk about the risk lexicon and the common language that we're using, we all have to understand what these terms mean. They have specific definitions. So accept means that we're just going to allow the chance of the risk happening to happen and not do anything about it right now. Okay. Now, when we accept, we can also have a plan. We can say, well, we're not going to do anything right now, but if the risk does happen, we're going to have a plan for how to deal with it later. Okay. So that's accept. The next option would be mitigate. And mitigate means we are going to do something right now. We're going to actually take some action that will either reduce the probability of the risk happening or reduce the impact, or both. And transfer means we transfer the responsibility for the risk to somebody else. It's very rare, we don't see that one all that often because it means that that other party also has to accept. We can't just farm out all our risks, they actually have to accept the risk. And that's where it becomes unusual. You know, most people have enough risks, they don't want to take on new ones. But sometimes there's a reason to. And the classic example where you might see this in your life would be insurance. You have insurance for your car. So you're essentially saying, well, if I get into an accident, I'm going to transfer that risk to the insurance company and they'll pay me for my car if I total it. Probably not full price, but they'll pay me something. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples of risk responses and what they mean. So the first example, we're going back to the CAS system. And remember, this is a task management inquiry system that the Technical Assistance Center uses, okay? So basically, their residual risk, if you remember, was that the system's at risk of failing. If the failure occurs, then the tech team would need to revert to a cumbersome process for verifying customer identity. So that manual process we talked about. So what do they choose to do? They chose to accept that risk because they've already done everything that they can about it and they don't have money to create a new system at this point. So they've accepted, and their action is they have a plan in place to create backups. So remember when I was talking about you can accept and have a plan? Well, that's their plan, is just to do backups in case this happens. Okay, so that's an example of risk response, and we have those three options. So then our next step is going to be to implement that response. So we have to, if we're going to take some action, now is when we would do it. So let's talk about implementing risk responses. So we have to respond to risk. If we just identify risks and never do anything about them, it's kind of a useless exercise, right? I mean, what's the point? The risks are still there. We're not mitigating them. We know what they are, but they're still going to probably have the same likelihood and probability of occurring. And the impact isn't going to change any. So we want to respond to them. We also want to make sure that the cost of responding and managing the risk doesn't outweigh the benefits. Right? So in other words, we don't want to spend $100,000 to mitigate something that only has a $5 impact, okay, if you're looking at financial impact. We also want to manage risk as a system by considering underlying factors. If you remember that slide with the silos, and we talked about cross-cutting risks. So those cross-cutting risks often have cross-cutting root causes. So that's what this is about, trying to manage all of those things together instead of individually. And we want to have a consistent approach across the organization. This is why we use the same risk register for all risk assessments, and we use the same language and so on. Of course, we're looking at risk on a comprehensive enterprise-wide basis. We've talked about that. And the other thing about risk response is it's most effective when it's used for decision-making, right? So this kind of goes back to why do you need to respond? Well, you need to respond because if otherwise you're just identifying risks. Once we identify some response and know what we're going to do, then using that information to make decisions is where this becomes a really powerful tool. And we'll talk more about that. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If you go back to the example of the risk response where you use the residual of cash and accepting and plan in place to create backups. Now, I know you said because there's no funding and stuff, but in my head, I'm thinking this is a short-term fix for the risk. And aren't risks supposed to, if they're going to occur, or you know they're going to occur, that the solution to them is to find a long-term fix for it? So I'm just bewildered that it would just be a short-term fixed risk instead of finding a long-term solution.
Sure. And which example are you talking about again?
One that you put up on the board, the example of the risk response, if you go back One more slide. One more. Right there.
Okay, so the CAS system. Okay, so your question is what, accepting and having a plan,
This appears like a short-term
Right,
fix
right.
for the risk.
right?
But
Yes.
in my head, I'm thinking it should be a long-term fix for a risk because
Yep.
this is gonna keep occurring.
Yep.
And by you doing stuff to create backups, in my head, that's manual, which takes away time to do stuff, which is the time and money, which the program is not working the way it's supposed to work.
Yep.
So therefore, it needs to be a long-term fix.
Right.
For the short-term risk.
Yes, yes, and you're exactly right. So this is a good example of something we're going to talk about in later modules where we talk about tiering, because when you identify a risk at your at sort of a business unit level, which is where this risk was identified, it was the TAC identified this risk. Okay, you may not have control over responding to that risk, and that's why they chose accept in this case. So if they had the money available to develop a new system, that probably would have been the response instead of accept. But as it happens, they didn't. So what they chose to do was identify it and hope that it makes it up the ladder of risks to eventually the decision makers being able to see it. And then the decision makers who have some control over the money then could actually find a long-term solution. So that's the idea. And you'll see that many times here.
So is it acceptable then to have two-pronged responses? I know for IT language in PMI, we use avoidance as one additional risk strategy
Yep.
that I didn't see, but certainly if we could define avoidance if possible, and then contingency plan if
Yep.
acceptance is the only alternative.
Right, yeah, absolutely. When we do that on occasion, we also frequently will see, we'll put a couple of mitigation strategies into place, but then there's some risk left over and we just choose to accept what's left over. So you'll see that as well. And I think it becomes clearer when you work through some examples. So, sure. Anything else? Okay, so the last step in our risk cycle is to monitor results, and we're just going to touch on this. And why is this important? Well, it allows us to see how we're doing, in essence. It's not about compliance, it's more about being able to tell what's working and what isn't. So your management's going to determine the frequency and the depth. So if you're, working, let's say you're in the TAC and you're doing a risk assessment, your TAC leadership is going to determine how you're going to monitor. The risk division is going to have some interaction with you to see how are you doing. Are you actually able to implement some of your responses, and are they working over time? So there's that. What else? The impact and probability of the risk, and of course considering control. So all of these are important in how we monitor. Okay, so quick module 2 review. During this session, we've talked about risk identification. The difference between inherent and residual risk is the controls, if you remember. Risk assessment, which is probability times impact, and that's our quantification piece. We have risk response, and our basic options are accept, mitigate, and transfer, as well as avoidance. We don't use it as commonly, but that's something that is also available, avoid, which just means we avoid the risk. We don't ever come across it. We take it out of our process or what have you. And monitoring of risk, which is based on our risk response. So if we're accepting, there's nothing else we have to do to monitor. If we're going to put some mitigation into place, then we want to monitor how that mitigation went. And definition of risk again, and just a statement that risk management requires the identification and assessment of risks, as we now all know. All right, any questions? All right, we want to, I guess, take a 10-minute break? 5-minute break. Okay, please plan to be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you.